The night train to nowhere. Deep sleep story. The evening air hung thick and warm as Sarah stepped onto the train platform. Her worn leather suitcase felt heavier than usual in her tired hands. The day had been long, filled with a kind of small disappointments that seemed to pile up like autumn leaves. Her job interview hadn't gone well. The apartment she'd hoped to rent had been given to someone else. Even her favorite coffee shop had run out of her usual blend. Now, standing beneath the dim yellow glow of the station lights, she felt the weight of it all settling on her shoulders like a familiar, unwelcome coat. The train that waited before her was not the sleek, modern locomotive she had expected. Instead, it was something from another era entirely. Deep blue paint covered its elegant curves, and brass fittings gleamed softly in the lamplight. Steam rose lazily from beneath its wheels, curling upward into the twilight sky like whispered secrets. Sarah checked her ticket again. Platform 7, car 3, seat 14B. The numbers matched perfectly, though she couldn't quite remember booking passage on such an old-fashioned train. Perhaps the travel agency had made a substitution. It didn't matter now. She was too tired to question the details. The conductor, a kindly man with silver hair and gentle eyes, smiled as she approached. His uniform was pressed and proper, with brass buttons that caught the light. "Good evening, miss," he said, tipping his cap. "Traveling far tonight?" "Just away," Sarah replied softly. "Somewhere else?" He nodded as if this were the most natural destination in the world. "Ah, yes. The night train to nowhere is perfect for that kind of journey. Right this way." Sarah followed him up the narrow steps and into the train car. The interior took her breath away. Rich mahogany panels lined the walls, and plush velvet seats in deep burgundy faced each other across small tables. Crystal lamps provided warm golden light that danced across everything like candle flame. The air smelled of old books and lavender. Her seat was beside a large window, and as she settled in, the conductor brought her a cup of chamomile tea in a delicate china cup. "The house," he said with a wink, "for first-time travelers to nowhere." As the train began to move, Sarah felt her muscles slowly releasing the tension they'd held all day. The rhythmic sound of wheels on tracks created a gentle, hypnotic melody. Click-clack, click-clack, click-clack. Her breathing deepened and slowed to match the train's steady pace. Outside her window, the familiar cityscape began to fade. Tall buildings gave way to smaller homes, then to open fields bathed in moonlight. The landscape seemed to shimmer and shift, as if she were looking at it through water. Trees swayed without wind and flowers bloomed in impossible colors that had no names. "Excuse me," came a soft voice beside her. Sarah turned to see an elderly woman settling into the seat across from her. She had kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and wore a lavender shawl draped over her shoulders. "I hope you don't mind the company. I'm Margaret." "Sarah," she replied, surprised by how natural it felt to talk to this stranger. "I don't mind at all." Margaret smiled and pulled out a small leather-bound book. "I was just about to read. There's something magical about reading while traveling to nowhere. The stories seem to come alive in ways they never do at home." As Margaret began to read aloud in a gentle, musical voice, Sarah found herself drawn into a tale about a garden where dreams grew on trees like fruit, ready to be picked by anyone brave enough to climb the branches. The old woman's words seemed to float through the train car, mixing with the rhythmic sounds of the journey. Other passengers dozed peacefully in their seats. A businessman in a rumpled suit snored softly, his briefcase forgotten on the floor. Beside him, a young mother held her sleeping baby close, both of them breathing in perfect synchronization. An artist sketched lazily in a notebook, his pencil moving across the page like it was dancing. The train wound through valleys where silver rivers reflected the moon, past forests where the trees whispered ancient songs only the night wind could understand. Time seemed to move differently here, stretching and compressing like taffy being pulled by invisible hands. Sarah's eyelids grew heavy as Margaret's story continued. The words wrapped around her like a warm blanket, each sentence carrying her deeper into a state of perfect peace. Her worries about the job interview, the apartment, or the day's small defeats began to feel distant and unimportant, like problems that belonged to someone else entirely. "We're approaching the station," Margaret said gently, though Sarah hadn't noticed the train beginning to slow. Through the window, Sarah could see a platform unlike any she'd ever imagined. It seemed to be made of clouds and starlight, with lampposts that glowed like captured fireflies. People moved slowly across it, their faces serene and content. Some carried suitcases, others had nothing at all. All of them seemed to know exactly where they were going. "But I don't understand," Sarah said, her voice thick with approaching sleep. "Where exactly is nowhere?" Margaret closed her book and smiled. "Nowhere is everywhere you need to be when you can't be anywhere else. It's the place between sleeping and waking, between what was and what might be. It's where tired souls come to rest and remember what really matters." The train came to a stop with barely a whisper. The conductor appeared beside their seats, still wearing his patient smile. "End of the line," he announced softly. "But don't worry, miss. You'll find your way back when you're ready." Sarah stood on unsteady legs, but found she didn't need her suitcase anymore. It seemed to have gotten lighter and lighter during the journey. Until now it felt weightless in her hands. Margaret squeezed her arm gently as they walked toward the door together. "Remember," the old woman whispered, "tomorrow is just another word for possibility." Sarah stepped off the train onto the cloud-soft platform. The air here tasted like morning rain and fresh beginnings. Around her, other travelers moved with purpose and peace, some boarding new trains that would take them to places with names, like maybe and someday, others walking into gardens where the paths were paved with second chances. She realized, with surprise, that her problems hadn't disappeared. The job interview was still a disappointment. The apartment still belonged to someone else. But somehow, standing here in this impossible place, those things felt manageable again. They were just obstacles, not endings, just parts of a story that was still being written. A new train pulled into the station, this one painted the soft gold of sunrise. The conductor, the same kind man with silver hair, stood beside its open door, ready to head back. He asked, "The morning train to tomorrow is about to depart." Sarah smiled, feeling lighter than she had in months. "Yes," she said, "I think I am." As the train carried her back through the shifting landscape, she watched the impossible colors fade into the familiar grays and browns of the real world. She carried something new with her now, a deep sense of peace that settled into her bones like warmth from a fireplace. When she opened her eyes, she was in her own bed, morning light streaming through her bedroom window. Her suitcase sat beside her dresser, and her interview clothes hung neatly on the chair where she'd left them the night before. But on her nightstand, beside her alarm clock, sat a delicate china teacup, empty now but still carrying the faint, comforting scent of chamomile. Sarah smiled and stretched, feeling more rested than she had in years. Today would bring new possibilities, new chances, new stories waiting to be written. And somewhere, in a place that existed between sleeping and waking, a train was getting ready for another journey to nowhere, waiting for the next tired soul, who needed to remember that tomorrow was just another word for hope.